Hello, everyone. It's Sybil Starr here to talk about the Aries new moon that is coming up tomorrow morning, um, but to also just talk about these changing times and the virus that is going around and the astrology that is around the virus, which is another way of understanding this virus. There's so many ways. It is certainly changing our lives. And as I was sitting with this, I came to the awareness that it felt like we were between the worlds, that it is not the world that we knew before the virus. And when we emerge after this time of quarantine and sheltering in and so many changes, it won't be the same world. So we are actually between the worlds. And as they say, what we do between the worlds changes all the worlds. So it's actually a magical time, even though it can be very challenging. And to understand what the bigger messages and teachings are about ourselves, our world, and our way forward. So first off, I'm just going to talk about the astrology of the virus, and then the second half of this, I will be talking about the actual new moon, Aries new moon, and which happens tomorrow morning at 1:30 a.m. here in the Pacific coast. Okay. So first off, I'm going to share some research that I did with this virus. There's many people who've done their research and their understanding, the astrological understanding of this virus. But what I did was I went back and looked at other pandemics. We've had many. Some of the biggest we've had, when one was in 1918 with the Spanish flu. We had SARS in 2009, or that was 2003 with the swine flu in 2009. We also had a pandemic in the 1940s. I don't remember what one that was. But I looked at these to see if there was any astrological configuration that was similar in all of them. Well, at least the four that I looked at, which are the ones that I shared. And there was, surprisingly. And it was a surprisingly, I was surprised, put it that way. I was surprised at what I saw. And what I saw were aspects between Jupiter and Neptune, and also Pluto. Pluto was also there. But Jupiter and Neptune are energies that are usually fairly, with Jupiter especially, fairly benevolent. But I'll tell you what I think it means. And it was different kinds of aspects. There was sextiles, oppositions, conjunctions, trine. I think all aspects. I saw every aspect. And of course, Neptune and Pluto have been transiting in a sextile for a very long time. And Pluto and Jupiter has moved into conjunction with Pluto, and it's sextile, which is an opportunity. It's an aspect that represents opportunity right now. So first off, Jupiter. How does Jupiter play into this? Jupiter, as I discovered through some research, is actually associated with pandemics. Jupiter is the big picture, it's expansive, but I also found something incredibly interesting and even kind of funny. So Jupiter is the ancient king of the gods, the Greco-Roman. He was called Jupiter in Rome, but it's called Zeus in Greece. And the Greeks had a belief that Zeus sent plagues for bad leadership. I mean, what can you say? We definitely do not have the best leadership. But of course, I mean, they also considered other factors too. But that was one of their beliefs. And I'm going to say, when I go back and look and see Jupiter involved in every pandemic that I looked at, yes, it does seem to be true. Neptune. What does Neptune represent? Neptune, one, represents our immune system. And when Neptune is activated, it can indicate problems with the immune system. Okay. But on a bigger level, it represents the field where everything is connected. And certainly this virus is showing us that is it is traveling everywhere, reminding us we are all connected. We live in this field with everyone else. We make up this field. We are the field and we are all connected. And Neptune reminds us of that. And it's also the field is also called the 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 quantum understanding is that it's called the God particle. It is where we are all connected and we are all one, and God is a collective, and it is all of us. So, there's nothing we can do that does not affect someone else. We impact, nobody is isolated. And there and in the Higgs field, every thought, action, and feeling that we have impact the field. Okay. And of course, Pluto. What does Pluto represent? Pluto is the god of the underworld. He's the god of death and rebirth, poison, toxicity, all of these different things where we are decaying or there is any kind of corruption shows us, and it comes to the surface. Okay. And um, and just another hypothesis and theory, is well, first off, it's very clear that we are polluting our environment. Okay. Just by people going inside and being quarantined, we are seeing the canals in Venice, the dolphins and the swans are coming back. Pictures of pollution over China, over Italy. They are before and afters all over the pictures, all over the internet. So you can see the difference. Okay. That, we are poisoning our nest and we're poisoning ourselves with the way we are living. And another interesting piece of this is there is a hypothesis going around that has some research behind it, that in every pandemic there has been in the last 150 years. Before that, don't know, but there has been a major disturbance in our electrical field, the electrical field of the Earth, which is part of that Higgs field that we live in, the electric piece. And back in 1918, that's when radio waves were installed around the world, and there was the Spanish flu. And recently, what is happening is in Wuhan, China, was the first place that 5G was rolled out. And so there is a lot of research on this. A Dr. Tom Cowan out of San Francisco. There's a Dr. Palace. There's there's books written about it, and I'm going to learn more about it. But it is a hypothesis, and it does seem to hold water in that way of the way we poison ourselves. And Rudolf Steiner, the way he described and understood a virus is that it is actually a toxic cell's excrement. It's what it is excreting, and it excretes part of the cell, so it's only like partially alive, and it has to live on a host, can't live by itself. But Rudolf Steiner and Dr. Tom Cowan out of San Francisco explains it really well, that this is another piece. This is what a virus actually is. It is a poison. And he also says that this poison, it really attracts or bonds to metal in our body. So if you have a lot of metal in your body, which we know heavy metals are just, they're just simply poisonous to us, and we get them in so many ways. And apparently this 5G really bonds to metals in your body. So just being really aware and cautious of that. So the other piece to remember, it's not just what's going on in the outer world. As within, so without. Is where are we toxic and poisonous inside of ourselves? Because it's all making up the field, not just what goes into it from the outside, what we put into it. Like I said, every thought, feeling, and action goes into the field. And so the big thing that the coronavirus is carrying is fear. Okay, and fear is what we are putting um, into this field. So it's really important to see where we're attaching to fear, because we're actually making that environment grow by responding with fear. I believe what is happening is there's a big teaching here, and of course, I think everyone has seen the teaching of the pause. You know, we are in a pause. We are between the worlds. It is a time of reset, and in this time, like I said, we are between the worlds, and we can actually change what is coming or we can change our future. We can change our future and our direction by what we do now. And it is very much about reflecting and contemplating on our lives and the choices we have, the choices before us personally and collectively. You know, we have been too busy and gotten ahead of ourselves, and we have totally disconnected from ourselves. This is a pause to take us back within and really do some deep reflection and realize we probably need to make some different choices personally and definitely collectively. And where can we make those choices? You know, around, first off, is choosing love over fear, recognizing when we are reacting to something instead of responding, to stop, slow down, think it through, feel it before we respond and make our choices. It is also, I feel, a big as the fear comes up, we're seeing so many people that are responding with love and with compassion. This is a very heart opening kind of a teaching. And you know, we had this year the Saturn Pluto conjunction, which I think is also part of it too, because it is that 30-year cycle or 30 some year cycle, and where we're changing consensus reality. And back in 1982 was the last time we had this Saturn Pluto conjunction. And what was going on then was the AIDS crisis. And the AIDS crisis, as horrible as it was, it opened our hearts. And look at where we are now. Gay marriage is legal in all 50 states. You know, it did change consensus reality because it opened our hearts. Well, I feel like this is a similar thing, that it is about a heart opening through this pandemic. Neptune is blanketing us with love to help us open up and remember that we are all connected. Nobody is alone, and everything we do affects everybody else, and everything everyone else does affects us, not just ourselves. And so to really carry that in our hearts, it is absolutely a time to reconnect with ourselves. And in this pause and reset moment, because when we connect deeply with ourselves is when we connect to Creator. And I want to read this beautiful quote. And it is, within each of us is a silence as vast as the universe. And when we experience that silence, we remember who we are. It's time to remember who we are. When we remember who we are, that we are powerful spiritual beings as well as human beings, and we carry that divine spark of Creator, that and that who we are in the cosmos, we are actually returning to our place in the cosmos as Mother Earth is shifting into higher dimensions. And so taking that time, taking a time out to remember who we are. And how we do that is going into what I call Kairos time instead of Chronos time. Kairos time is mythic time. And we do that when we're in prayer, when we're in meditation, when we're out in nature, when we walk, when we do art, when we create, when we sing, when we dance. All of those places that take us out of our little ego into something bigger than ourselves, we start to remember who we are and why we're here and what this life is about. And to remember that no problem is ever solved at the same level of consciousness of which it was created. And as we step into Kairos time, is when the solutions to what we're working with, what's going on in our lives personally and collectively, that is when they come. When we sit and try to think and think and think about them, they don't happen. Okay. And to remember, it is that Isaac Newton discovered gravity when he was in quarantine for the plague. You know, that is when these aha moments and these brilliant moments come up. Okay. And also group prayer, collective prayer, remembering once again that we are all one, and heart opening. It is a very powerful time to work with others in this magical field between the worlds, to get involved in internet prayer. You know, that also travels the airwaves, not just the virus. You know, we can lift that vibration of those airwaves by what it's carrying. You know, and if it's carrying prayer, it blesses those waves. Okay. And just to remember that we are writing, that we are in the midst of the transformation of our world, and we are riding that wave. And someone used the brilliant analogy of a surfer, and that the surfer meets the wave where it's at. You meet the wave. Basically, you meet the wave, you trust the process, and you ride the wave. And it is fear that takes you out of that ride, out of the flow. You know, if you stop and think about something too hard, you can talk yourself out of it, and that's the fear. And so ride the wave, follow the energy, as they say. Another way to say it is follow the energy. Stay in the flow. And also to remember, we are not alone. We are never alone, and to ask for help. Ask our guides, ask whoever you pray to, the Great Mother, Holy Mother, Jesus, anybody you work with. And also during this time, it is a time to visualize the world you want, and to put that, to set that prayer in motion. The prayer for the world we want in motion, and work in this magical energy field. And I know not everybody can be here. Many are on the front lines working really hard. And so include them in your prayers, include them in your circles. But this is the time to really work in that magical field. All right, so now I'm going to talk about the new moon in Aries for the next 30 days. That new moon in Aries is at 4 degrees of Aries, 4 degrees 12 minutes of Aries, on March 24th at 1:29 a.m. here Pacific time. And it is an action-packed new moon. And so, like I said, there's so much about pausing and going within and being connected, because we are at a crossroads. We are at a gateway. We are moving. And so it is the choices that we make now that will really set things in motion. So to begin with, Aries. What is Aries about? Aries is the warrior. Aries has to do with courage, bold action. It's a pioneer. And when you have courage, it means that not that there's not fear, is that you walk through that fear, okay? That you just keep going and know that the fear is there, and the fear will subside once you start moving and walking through that fear. It is the warrior archetype, understanding that when Aries is around, conflict usually arises, but it's the warrior that is the protector. It is the warrior that stands their ground. It's not the aggressor, or at least that's the more positive aspect of it. It can certainly come into aggressive energy in its shadow side, and we may see that as well, most likely will. But to know what the teaching is, okay? It is to stand your ground. Aries comes around the spring equinox, which is all about new birth. It is giving birth to something new. And to know that we are here to give this, we're at a gateway to give birth to something new. It is growing. This new moon is also conjunct the asteroid Chiron. And Chiron in Aries is the wounded warrior. You know, Chiron is the wounded healer, Aries is the warrior. So it's really about healing the wounded warrior. We have a perception that the warrior is the aggressor, or the truth of it is the warrior is the protector, the one who stands their ground when something isn't right. Okay, has that courage and has the courage to move forward with the truth of their convictions. All right. This new moon is also in a square to the nodes of the moon. The nodes of the moon are still in Cancer and Capricorn. They're at 3 degrees, whereas the new moon is at 4 degrees. And a square is a challenge. And so the south node is in Capricorn, then that is our past. The north node is in Cancer. That's the way forward. And so the south node in Capricorn has to do with the old ways, not wanting to give way to the new. The new wants to come. It's there. But the old, I mean, they've got the power. They don't want to give it up. They want to, and also fear. Fear keeps people from moving forward. So, Saturn is the ruler of Capricorn, and that's one of the places that brings up fear. Saturn and Capricorn. It is the old patriarchal paradigm. Sometimes what no matter how bad it is better than the unknown, and that feels like that's where we are. We are stepping into the unknown. So there is an element of trust here. But the north node is in Cancer, which is ruled by this Aries moon. So it is the way forward. This giving new birth is the way forward, and the courage to take that risk to move forward with something new and different. The south node of the moon is in a trine to the planet Uranus in Taurus. And a trine is an easy flow. It's not a challenge. It's a gift. It's a remembrance of gifts. And Edgar Cayce had a belief that Capricorn was related to First Nations people of the Americas. And so it is about indigenous ways, and especially their ways of prayer, their ways of aligning, and ceremonial ways of aligning ourselves with Mother Earth. It's ancient and old ceremonial ways of aligning ourselves with Mother Earth. Those who carry that ancient wisdom, it's to use those ancient ways of prayer. And one of the ways that has come up really strongly for me is smudging. We've got all of these horrible chemicals they want us to clean with and do this with, where we're just continuing to poison ourselves. Use more natural things of the earth. There's herbal essences, there's essential oils, vinegar, and especially smudging. Smudging, there is science behind it, how it cleans and clears the air, not only of viruses and bacteria, but also of the negative emotions that come up. And it also cleans surfaces. Smudge everything. I'm starting to smudge myself every day and smudge my house and move it all out. Remembering that. Okay. And it's also about connecting with the elemental spirits. The Aries card in the tarot is number 4. It is the Emperor, and the four has a lot to do with the 4 directions. And so it feels to me like as well that this is a big piece of this, is that in this magical time, especially connecting with the elemental spirits, going outside, being outside, calling them in, spending as much time as you can outside, and calling in these elemental spirits and praying. Now, a really challenging piece of this new moon is that the planet Mars, which is the ruler of the Aries new moon, is in a big conjunction with Pluto and Jupiter in Capricorn. And Mars in Capricorn is actually exalted in Capricorn because it's like the soldier, and it's like the person who has the ability to organize energy well and get things done. Okay, although we're in a time of rest and reset and repause, a pause in creating and going into Kairos states, there's also a piece of getting organized. Okay, it is also there. But like I said, it can also represent the soldier. And Capricorn is the patriarchy. It's the Yeah, and so, but just say that Mars is an activator. That's one of the main functions astrologically. Mars is like adding cayenne pepper to your dish. It makes it pop when Mars is active. So Mars is now in a conjunction. First off, I'm going to talk about with first with Jupiter and then with Pluto. Jupiter is Jupiter, like I said, expands things, and it can be very inspirational. Um, but conjunct Pluto is a very big challenge. Mars and Pluto together is a very big challenge. It is is a huge surge of adrenaline. It is the energy that can move mountains. It is very, like I said, once again, it's like when we set a prayer in motion with this kind of energy, it can actually move mountains. It can really move things along. But of course, the other side of that is that it's very volatile energy and very difficult to handle. And um, and I'm just going to kind of keep going. And so at the same time, Jupiter and Pluto are together. And when they come together, it's often indicative of leadership, of a strong leader. Now, what's of course what we would like to see is, a very strong leader, a wise leader, a Capricorn, a mature leader. And there is that potential for a really wise, mature leader to emerge in this crisis. But the shadow side is because they're in Capricorn, is authoritarianism and the desire for control. And Mars could be a military response. Now, I'm not saying this will happen. And of course, a good military response would be the National Guard going out and helping people, distributing supplies, organizing things, the National Guard, the Army Corps of Engineers, the different people involved with the military that could really, you know, um, um, help us in this time of crisis. But there's always also the possibility the shadow side will come out. And as we know, the Department of Justice, the DOJ, has already asked for expanded powers. It's as Naomi Klein said, it's like the shock doctrine. Okay, and it's the shock doctrine that happened after 9/11 and the Patriot Act and the way people responded with fear and gave away a lot of freedom. Well, just to know I feel that may be what's coming as well. But we have this powerful Mars here as well and Mars is actually going to be moving into Aquarius, and Aquarius is the sign of the people. Saturn has moved into Aquarius, and that is Saturn's going to be in Aquarius for the next 3 months and retrograde and come back into Capricorn. So we are getting some Aquarian energy. We're moving out of some of this Capricorn. And Aquarius is the sign of the people. It's the sign of revolution. And I'm not saying we're going to have revolution now. I don't think we are. But I do feel like there is certainly the potential for uprisings, for people to stand their ground and not allow to happen now what happened in around 9/11. We're more educated now, I believe, and the internet it was just an Aquarian um, tool is helping us stay connected. Aquarius is very much about collaboration. It's about connection. It is about social movements. We are riding the wave of a social movement right now. We've just got to stay on it and not jump into the fear and give everything away. And so I feel like this this virus, even though it's stimulating fear, is also giving people the downtime to reconnect with themselves and to communicate and to collaborate and to so that we can have a social movement where we are united. If something like I see the potential of happening does arise of 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 the shock doctrine, and but it's also the time to vision for the future, and it's also the time for very visionary leaders to emerge. We actually have a very visionary leader who has emerged with great ideas, and these are the Naomi Klein said, that Joe Biden may be winning the endorsement of losing candidates, but reality is endorsing Bernie Sanders and his ideas, because he is a visionary. He's seeing to the future, and this is the direction Spirit is trying to take us. And at the end of 2020, we're not there yet. There is a big Jupiter-Saturn conjunction, which sets a 20-year zeitgeist in motion of social movements. And so just know these grassroots social movements is the people. It is, as Bernie says, it's not me, it is us. And that is exactly right. It is the power of the people rising up. We are moving deeper and deeper into the Aquarian age, but we're taking a pause, a reset to reconnect with ourselves, with Creator, go into Kairos time to create, to create and vision. And to know as we put these prayers in motion, they will become real, but we cannot succumb to fear. It is about putting love into that field and trusting the process and riding the wave. All right. Wishing you all the best in the coming month. I'm going to start doing this twice a month now. The full moon is also a very big and powerful event. And so I will be coming to you a little probably on April 7th with, or April 6th, somewhere in there, with the new moon, with the full moon video as well. All right. Wishing you all the best.